Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So today we're going to continue based on last lecture. Last lecture we already looked at into a data collection method, right? So data collection method that we already looked last class was observation and interview, right? For today we're going to continue on survey research, right? So for survey research, where is it? So survey research is a system for collecting information from or about people to describe, compare, or explain the knowledge, attitude, and behavior. So means that we do some collection of data by survey, right? Survey means we go to the field, or either we go to the field or not going to the field, but we are collecting the information from the respondent by questioning them some question about the objective that we want to measure, right? So example of survey research is environmental attitude across culture, effect of working hours on family life, depression, stress related to health problem. So another example is knowledge, attitude, and practice on dengue fever prevention, right? The effect of age on positive and negative effect. Are males satisfied with their bodies? Perception and attitudes towards people who mental health problem. Right, so this is example of survey research. Right, so all of these required a set of question that we already designed, and then that we pass to the respondent to answer the question. Right. So stage in survey research. So first we need to set objective for our data collection lah. Of course we need to set an objective. What are the variables that we want to measure, right? So for example, let's say I want to do a survey research regarding knowledge, attitude, and practice on dengue fever prevention. So I want to measure knowledge of resident in Perak about dengue fever, and I want to know the attitude of respondent about prevention of dengue fever, and I want to know what are the current practice of the respondent. So this is the objective that I'm set for my data collection. Then I need to design a study, whether I want to do a cross-sectional study or prospective design, retrospective design, longitudinal design, or cohort design. So I need to decide which research design that is suitable to my survey research, right? So then I need to prepare a reliable and valid instrument. So means that I need to design a questionnaire that can answer my objective, right? A set of questionnaire that can answer my objective means that, for example, first objective is I want to measure the knowledge of the respondent regarding dengue fever. So I need to I need to create a question that measure that perspective, right? For example, let's say I want to know knowledge, so I need to ask a question regarding the knowledge of dengue fever. And then once I finish design the questionnaire, so I need to test whether my questionnaire is reliable. Reliable means that when I test to others type of respondent, it should get the same answer, right? So it can be trusted, you know. So and then I need to make sure I have a valid instrument and valid question. The question that are asked to answer the objective should be valid, right? In terms of their content, in terms of their language, and so on. And then step number 4, I need to administer the survey. So to get the survey, to administer the survey means that I need to do a data collection process. So the data collection process might be a face-to-face, might be through internet, might be through mail, through telephone, and so on. So I have several data collection methods that I need to employ that suitable to my target respondent. And then once I got the result, I got the data, so I need to manage and analyze the survey data and report the result lah. So this is the stage of in survey research, right? So survey research characteristics usage is this is widely used in social science, right? So systematic follows specific procedure based on survey science and scientific method. Type often presented as interview or questionnaire. So normally we already have a set of questions that we want to ask the respondent. So normally we create it as a questionnaire and pass it to the respondent, and sometimes we do a face-to-face interview, right, based on structured question. Impartial sampling unit are selected from the population without prejudice or preference, and so that the sample should be representative of the population, right? So we should not get the respondent based on our prejudice, based on our judgmental, right? We need to take the respondent as random as possible, right? So that's why we need to employ a randomized sampling techniques in our data collection sampling method, right? So a survey research characteristics, so data usually quantitative, but it also can be a qualitative. Qualitative means that you make it as open-ended question. So when you make it as open-ended question, it should be in a qualitative in nature lah. So if you put it into a multiple choice or true or false question, so it should be taken as a quantitative measure, right? So you can put number for that a level, right? So then another characteristic is replicable. So other people using the same method are likely to essentially get the same result. Means that when you already have your questionnaire and you design your questionnaire properly, you distribute your questionnaire according to your sampling frame or sampling method. So others people who like to do the same research should get the same result as you get, right? So often use interview or questionnaire lah, and this is part of the data collection method. So as I said before, when you want to do a data collection method, either you can do using a face-to-face interviews or questionnaire lah. So involve real world samples, right? So you should get this real sample. You should not sit down under the tree and fill in your questionnaire alone, right? You should distribute the questionnaire to the respondent to get the real answer, right? So the purpose of survey research. Wait, So the purpose of survey research, there are two broad purpose of survey research. First is we want to get the information. Yep. So normally we want to get the information, right? And second purpose, we want to build a theory, right? Or we want to test or the theory, right? Sometimes you want to based on the literature, let's say they already established the theory A and B is related, so you want to introduce another function or another object in the relationship of A and B. So you want to test whether A and B is still in relationship when the existing of C, right? So that is the purpose of survey research. So in information gathering, right, so the goal is to gather information. For example, you can do a poll, census, customer satisfaction, attitudes, right? You want to measure the knowledge and practice of their knowledge, right? So this is the to gather information, right? So when you want to do a theory testing and building, right, for example, personality and social psychology theories, right, so you want to test the theories. So often survey do some info gathering and some theory testing lah. So normally uh, some of the research are doing both objective, in getting the information and do the theoretical testing, right? So research method. So survey research method. This is how we going to get data collection. So there are two type of data collection for research survey research. First is personally administered, means face-to-face interview, right? And the second one is by mail or electronics, right? So for personally administered means face-to-face interviews, the researcher will greet respondent, explain briefly his intention, and wait the respondent to complete the questionnaire. Means that you bring the questionnaire and give to the respondent. This is a questionnaire data collection, right? Advantage is you can establish a rapport and motivate respondent. Doubt can be clarified if your respondent have a doubt or vague in the question. So you can do a clarification of the item or question. Less expensive when administered to a group of respondent. Almost 100% response rate assure, right? Almost 100% you will get the response from the respondents. Anonymity of response is high, right? um, Disadvantage of personally administered mean explanation may be introduced bias. Maybe the data collector will explain wrongly regarding the question, and it will introduce some bias to the question, and respondent will answer biasly, right? And it will take time and effort to get the full respondents, right? So mail and electronics. So the questionnaire are sent through mail or electronic and written within a certain period of time. So the advantage of using mail data collection. So anonymity is high. So you will get maybe um, the same respondent will answer twice or banyak kali, right? Wide geographic region can be reached. This is advantage. um, Token gift can be enclosed to seek compliance, right? Respondent can take more time to respond at their convenience lah, so they can take time, so they no need to data collector no need to wait in front of the respondents for respondent to answer the question, right? But the disadvantage is response rate for mail. Response rate may be almost low, at 30% rate quite be acceptable, cannot each item that you ask in the questionnaire cannot be clarified, right? The respondent should assume by themselves, right? Follow-up procedure for non-response necessary. So we need to do some follow-up if you don't get any response from the respondents, right? So this is the advantage of electronic data collection, easy to administer, right? Can reach globally, right? Now we have WhatsApp, web, SurveyMonkey, and so on. We have Facebook and a lot of social media, so we can get the respondent very easy, and we can reach globally very inexpensive, very cheap. No need. It's not nearly no cost incurred. If you do some advertisement, then you will have some cost lah. And fast delivery, respondent can answer at their convenience, right? So this is the advantage. But the disadvantage is computer literacy is a must lah. So you cannot reach a certain age, right? For example, very old age, which is not very good at computer, we're not very good at electronic device, so you're going to miss out that kind of the respondents. So respondent must have access to the facilities. So I believe nowadays everybody have access to the facilities, such as internet and the electronic device. Respondent must be willing to complete the survey. So this is the disadvantage. Most of the respondents are mostly ignore to that survey. So error in survey research. So error of observation due to the measurement procedure. So administrative method, maybe it's caused by interviewer effect. Respondent social desirable, respond careless, instrument wording should be vague, and question order is not in order, right? Response format is not valid. So this is kind of the error that might be happen when you do a survey research. So interviewer effects means that interviewer introduce a bias to that question, right? So respondent would be affected by the biasness of that introduced by interviewer. So social desirable response means that a respondent might be think that they are not they will think that they are others people, means that dia tidak menjawab based on diri dia. Mungkin dia akan menjawab based kepada orang lain. Dia menjadi orang lain untuk menjawab. You faham tak the effect of the respondents? And the respondent might be careless, right? Instrument means that the wording vague means wording yang you letak, question yang you letak tu maybe is not very clear, right? Not very clear and contain double barrel question. Right, double barrel question means that you have a double question in one question. So you should remember in STA 111 you already learned this one, okay? So question order, some question, so the basic question should be asked first, but you ask later, you ask the advanced question first. So this is the error that you need to look into. And response format also is a very important part in designing a questionnaire instrument. Right. So next, for non-observation, so this is another error. So due to the sampling process, non-observation means that you will left out the non-observation respondent, maybe due to coverage error. Right, sample survey may not adequately represent all individuals. So at this stage, the sampling design is the most important part, right? When you have a questionnaire, so you need to design a sampling method carefully, so you will cover all the respondent that will represent the population. Sampling error, sample might not be large enough to have a confidence in a population estimate. So this is another part that where the sample size calculation is play a role, right? So when you need to get enough sample to generalize to the population, so you need to calculate the sample size. How to calculate the sample size? Sample size is calculated based on each objective. So let's say the first objective, you want to do a linear regression, right? For example, you want to find a relationship between A and B using a linear regression, and you want to do a prediction. So you need to calculate the sample size based on linear regression requirement. So you need to consider the error, the type 1 error and type 2 error. Right? Type 1 error is when you need to read a lot about type 1 error. The probability of type 1 error means the probability of accepting null hypothesis when null hypothesis is not correct. Type 2 error means the accepting of alternative hypothesis when alternative hypothesis is not correct. So you are making the error, you are accepting the wrong, you making a wrong result. So you need to calculate the error, the probability of getting an error, right? And then you need to estimate what are the effect size of each objective. Then you will get the sample size, right, for each objective, right? So then from each objective, sample size for each objective, then you need to compare which one is the largest sample size. Then your sample size for the research should be the largest sample size on each objective. And of course, you need to add another 5% or 20% of estimated missing data, right? So this is a requirement for reducing a non-response error and sampling error, right? Sampling error. So another error for non-observation means a non-response error means a missing data, right? So individual sample may not respond to all items or elect not to participate. Means that sometimes when you have two large items in the questionnaire, so sometimes respondent will answer, maybe they will skip some parts, right? Means that you will get a missing data. Another point is the respondent will not read all the question and dia akan hentam saja semua, dia hantar 1 2 3 1 2 3, or dia hentam 4 semua. You faham tak? So that is going to be a non-response error, right? So you need to reserve some missing data, estimated missing data in your sample size, right? Error in survey research. So error of observation due to measurement process. So tadi ada sebut kan, so this is the benda yang kita tengok tadi lah. Oh, ini atas, sorry. Alright, issues in survey research. So this is the issue. The first issue is, as I said before, reliability and validity. Reliability means that you need the questionnaire that you already designed should be able to measure your objective, and your questionnaire should be able to get the same result at another occasion, right? So the question is, will the measure yield the same result in another occasion? Will similar result be obtained by different researcher on different occasions? So this is the reliability, kebolehpercayaan. Either your questionnaire can be trusted or not trusted. So that's why when you building a questionnaire or you design a questionnaire, you should not design based on what you think. So you should design based on the literature. So you should base on the literature, but with the guidance of your objective, right? You cannot maksudnya you tak boleh keluar daripada objective you, right? Setiap soalan you tanya mesti berdandaskan your objective. So reliability is expressed as a coefficient between 0 and 1. So this is that's why, for example lah, mudah yang I nak bagi example. Let's say you design a thermometer, right? So you need to test whether your thermometer is working or not working before you selling the thermometer, right? So you need to test at the cool place, what is the temperature? At the hot place, what is the temperature? So you need to collect some data. Means that you need to do a pilot test or pre-test, maksudnya it's a pilot test before the actual test. You need to test whether your questionnaire is working or not working, right? So in a pilot test, we're testing our questionnaire, whether our questionnaire can be trusted or not trusted by measuring the reliability value statistics. So reliability are measured using a Chromebook Alpha. Chromebook Alpha, normally we will get in principal component nanti. Chromebook Alpha will give the value from 0 to 1. The higher the value, the better the reliability. When you have a lower value, means the reliability is not good, right? Cannot be trusted. So the common reliability coefficient is Chromebook Alpha, as I said before, which estimate internal consistency by determining how all items on a test related to all other item to the total test. This is internal coherence data, right? So another issue in survey research is validity, right? So does instrument really measure what it's supposed to measure? Means that you want to measure the knowledge of dengue fever. So your questions should measure the knowledge only. You should not ask others type of question that are not related to that subsection, right? So for example, thermostat versus a person judgment, one question versus a group of question, right? If you were to start all over again, would you choose this university to pursue your degree? So this is a validity question, right? So will you recommend this university to others people? I look forward to take part in future activities organized by University Alumni Association. So are the above question valid to measure loyalty or satisfaction towards the university? So you need to ask. So you either you want to measure the loyalty or satisfaction, right? So you need to separate the item that asks about loyalty in one section, the item that asks for satisfaction in one section. So you cannot pull all the question together in one section, right? So this is the issue, right? So beginning as survey instrument, right? Survey instrument. So we need to choose a survey item and questionnaire carefully. Second is choose the appropriate scales, right, for each item and for the ease of analysis, and make sure the first thing that before designing a survey instrument or survey questionnaire, the first thing you need to set up your objective, right? You need to know what are the objectives that you want to measure. For example, the first one, I want to measure the knowledge of dengue fever among the respondent in Perak Tengah. So I already know my objective is to measure the knowledge. Then I need to choose the survey question carefully to measure that objective. So the survey question cannot be one question only. It should be a set of question that measure the knowledge of people regarding the dengue fever, right? For example, let's say you kena tanya, let's say ada 10 soalan. First question asking about is dengue fever, where is the what are the vector of the dengue fever? So tanya lagi, dengue fever boleh berjangkit ke? Apa menyebabkan dengue fever? So kita nak tanya soalan-soalan yang berkenaan dengan knowledge only, right? And you need to choose the appropriate scale for that item, for each item. Make sure each item having a same scale for your ease of analysis lah. So if you are looking towards true and false, yes or no, right? Or either you are looking into Likert scale 1 until 7, 1 until 10, 1 until 5, right? So it's up to you. It's based on that question. So later on I will give you an assignment for this. So keep the question short and simple, right? It should be, there are some requirement that you already learned in STA 111, right? The requirement for design a questionnaire, right? You should not avoid a biased question. You should not you should avoid a biased question. You should not ask a sensitive question. You should make a question short and simple, no double barrel question, and so on lah. So you need to read again about designing or creating a good questionnaire, right? Avoid sensitive question, of course, right? Make sure the length of question is reasonable and the physical appearance are appealing. So means that you need to make sure you are not boring to answer that question, right? If the question are too much, too many, then people or respondent will get boring to answer the question, and they will start to hantam all the question or try to skip the question, right? So you will miss out the data. So this is the point that you need to make sure in designing a survey instrument, right? So next slide, it means factor determining appropriate question in a questionnaire. So first, research objective and question must be determined explicitly. Means that, as I said before, these two part is very important in your research. So you need to make sure you are clear with your objective and research question, right? And then baru you start to design or determine your question. For example, your objective is to compare the employability of male and female graduates in a private sector, to determine the stress level of female executive, what kind of movie attract teenagers. So attitude and belief. So for example, are you satisfied with the service rendered by immigration department? So what are the appropriate scale for this? Either yes or no, satisfied, not satisfied, or you have very satisfied, not satisfied, very not satisfied. Right. So this is the measure, the scale of measurement that you need to consider, right? And make sure in each section you have a length of many items, and you need to make sure all items have a same scale for your ease of analysis. If you have one item asking with Likert scale, second item asking about yes or no, then you will have a trouble when you want to do analysis, right? So avoid and plan a proper plan for your analysis. For now, let's say you already, and this is the objective, you want to compare the employability of male and female graduates in the private sector. In your mind, you should know there should be in this object there are two variables. The first variable is employability, right? The second variable is gender, male and female. So you want to do a comparison. What are the methods that's suitable for comparison? Either if the data are normal or parametrics, you can use independent sample t-test, right? Independent sample t-test. If the data is not normal, you can use Mann-Whitney test. So this is a parametric test. So you already know in your mind. So what kind of the data you should be you should collect? For independent sample t-test, it requires dependent and independent variable, right? For independent variable, now we know gender, male and female are independent variable. Employability is dependent variable. So in the requirement for independent sample t-test, dependent variable should be numerical. So you need to make sure you measure employability and make sure you get the numerical data. Whether you want to measure the employability rate or non-employability rate. So if you want to measure the satisfaction employability, right? So you need to determine before you start with the designing the questionnaire, right? So I think that's all for survey research, right? And this is an experiment, data collection for experiment. So a study caused by effect that involve manipulation of one variable while trying to keep all variable constant. So this is an experiment. So we have two type of data collection in experiment, whether in lab or field, right? So lab is done in artificial or contrived environment. Field is done in natural environment in which activity regularly take place. So this is a type of experiment, right? So lab experiment, a researcher want to investigate which of two teaching method, traditional or new, is more successful in expanding the participant knowledge. Let's assume the researcher has 50 people. How is he going to conduct the experiment? Can you think about for a while? Right, how he going to conduct the experiment? Right. So he will divide the respondents into two groups, right? Maybe for a teaching method, or either you can use a one group, right? Maybe for me, I think the best way is to divide the people into two groups and teach them use one group with a traditional method, and another group by using a new method, right? And then you get the knowledge, right, by using the examination or test, and then you compare the result. So this is the one of the lab experiment methodology lah. So this one group assignment, I'm not sure about this. So in lab experiment, we should have a control group, right? Control group means a group whom the experimenter does not change in independent variable, right? Experiment group and control group must be matched on all important characteristics. For example, let's say I am doing a study on Alzheimer's disease, right? I want to measure the risk of getting Alzheimer's disease. So my consideration of variable may be the age, the risk, lifestyle, right? Lifestyle such as whether you're doing exercise or work condition, right? So I have two groups. One group with the Alzheimer's disease, another group without Alzheimer's disease. But I will need to match these two groups with certain characteristics. For example, age. Normally, Alzheimer's disease will occur among people who age more than 60 years old. For example, 60 to 65 years old. So I need to consider these two groups. One group with Alzheimer's disease, another group without Alzheimer's disease. A group with Alzheimer's disease is an experiment group. A group without Alzheimer's disease is a control group, right? So right. So in lab experiment, we have another issue about a variable, which is extraneous variable. Extraneous variable is a variable that may compete with the independent variable and in explaining the outcome, right? It can destroy the integrity of a research study that claim to show a cause and effect relationship. So you need to be aware about the extraneous variable, right, or confounding variables, right? Because the confounding variable or extraneous variable can affect the dependent variables as well, and it also affect with the independent variables, right? So if the is an extraneous variable really is the reason for outcome rather than independent variable, then we sometimes would like to call it as a confounding variable, because it has confused or confounded the relationship we are interested. Maybe, for example, um, let's say A is a dependent variable, B is independent variable. You measure A and B, you found that A have a relationship with B. Means that B will cause A. A is caused by B. Means that, let's say, for example, yang realistic example, let's say heart disease. Heart disease is caused by smoking, right? You got the relationship. Now, you don't know, maybe there are some other cause that that can cause heart disease, that also can cause person who smoke, right? For example, let's say work stress, right? When you stress, it might contribute to the heart disease. It also might contribute to the person smoking, right? So it might, in this situation, the third variable, which is stress, is called as a confounding variables or extraneous variables, right? For next, we have field experiment, right? Field experiment is the experiment carried out in a more natural setting. It is possible to have such tight control over variable in the field, but it does have an advantage and of being far less artificial than laboratory, right? So scenario of field experiment, Pilavin et al. 1969 carried out a study in which they arranged for a person with certain appearance to collapse on an underground train and wait to see how long it was before the person was helped, right? So I think that's all for data collection. So we already covered for data collection, we already covered for observation and interview, personal interview, observation, and we also look into face-to-face data collection in survey research, questionnaire, and we also look into experiment, and in experiment we look into lab experiment and field experiment, right? So I think that's all. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.